Hey, my name is Shelly, and welcome to my weekly wrap-up. For people who've been on my channel for quite a while, you know that I've done weekly vlogs, and I've kind of stopped a little bit because of life got insanely busy in February. And to be honest, I was feeling the need to stop anyways. It takes a ton of time to take all the clips and edit everything, and honestly, with everything said and done combined, it's probably about 2 days of work just for one vlog, which is quite a lot, especially since I don't really have as much time to make vlogs anymore. The second reason why I decided to move to weekly updates is in light of everything that's been happening on Booktube. It just kind of made me look at social media, and especially Booktube in particular, in a different light. I just decided that I don't want to put my personal life on the internet anymore. Maybe not forever, maybe just until something happens or something that I can talk about, like traveling or something that is not my day-to-day life. I'll get back to making a vlog, but as of right now in the wintertime, I have nothing going on besides my personal stuff, and I really don't want to air that out for everybody to see. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about the books that I've read in the last week, and honestly, it has not been that much. I've had a run of bad luck when it comes to books that I've picked out. I don't know. I think it's because I'm transitioning from the romantasy era that I was in back into my regular reading habits. So because of that, I've had a couple DNFs, and I think because of those DNFs, it has just shown me that I need to just take a pause from romantasy and back to reading what I originally loved. So I'll start with the books that I finished, then I'll move on to the books that I'm currently reading. Oh no, wait, should I start with the DNFs? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to start with my DNFs first, get the bad news bears out of the way, and then move on to what I have read, currently reading, and plans. So let's get to it. I had to move the camera because I realized that I bumped it when I set it up and it just was off. The first DNF I actually talked about in my last vlog, and that is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I think when I picked this up, I was just really coming out of my romantasy era, I guess, and I was just trying to keep up with the momentum, and a couple people on a Discord that I'm in decided to pick it up. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I had it on my 25 TBR list. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just get to it. So I picked it up, and I did like a lot of it, but I think the writing style kind of didn't really work for me. And the other thing that kind of didn't really work for me is because it is in a very much like kind of a competition setting, and a very like Caraval, that book series, I can't remember the actual name of the series, that kind of setting. And I wasn't the biggest fan of that series, and I kind of went into this book not knowing that. So that was two things against it. And I just kind of didn't feel the book. I didn't really care, so I decided to put it down. The second DNF, I am so sad about this one. This is not a permanent DNF. This is just, I'm going to put it down until I'm in the mood for it. And that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Although I really am loving this book, and I do love this book, and I like the story and everything that is happening in it, I just realized that I need a break from European fantasy. Something more unique than the typical settings that we usually have. And although this is not the typical like medieval setting, it is in Europe, kind of very much like England, France kind of setting in like the early or the late 1800s. It just wasn't pulling me in. The story wasn't pulling me in. It kind of really reminded me of the Mask of Mirrors series, and I'm totally blanking on that series, and I absolutely love it. What is the series called? I'm blanking on it, but it totally reminded me of that. It reminded me of Mask of Mirrors mainly because of the tarot card, like magical tarot cards, and also like the high society backdrop. I think I just realized that I am not in the mood for this book, and I'm not in the mood to read this type of setting, mainly because I started watching the Avatar movies with my kids, and you know, the blue ones, and just seeing that world of Pandora, I'm just like, oh, I want to read about something like that. And then I jump back to here and I'm like, oh. But with all that said, I still am very curious about this book. I really want to continue it. I'm going to put it down for now. So that's sad and unfortunate news. But what I did finish this week is the second book in the Dungeon Crawl Carl series, Carl's Doomsday Scenario. I buddy read this with Morgan from Booked Panda. We both had a lot of fun with this book. I have felt a certain way about this book, and I couldn't really quite pinpoint what it was. Although I had a lot of fun, I just kind of felt like I wanted a little bit more from the plot. And she kind of pinpointed exactly how I was feeling. She said it's like a filler episode in an anime show where you're kind of getting a little bit more information, but it's just mostly filler. And I'm like, yes, that is exactly what this felt like. This felt like a filler episode. Nothing happened, but it's kind of like that stepping stone that you need to get from point A to point B. So although I didn't love it as much as that first one, because that first book was so freaking unique, so hilarious, so out there, and like nothing I've read before, I just didn't love it as much. And so I ended up giving this about 3.5. Originally I said 3, and then I talked to Morgan a little bit more, and she kind of like said, oh, remember this, remember this. I'm like, oh yeah, those were all really cool. So I did bump it up to 3.5. I will be continuing on with the series. I'm just not really in a rush. I think it's going to be one of those series that I'm just slowly chipping away at for when I need a good palate cleanser in between all of the heavy and serious and epic long series that I'm reading. If you haven't checked out the series because of the whole lit RPG stigma, please give it a shot. It's just one of those books that just entertains you and puts you in a good mood. Also, I love Princess Donut. I need like a plushie or a t-shirt or something with her on it because I am obsessed with that cat. Since I finished the Dungeon Crawler Carl audiobook, I have jumped back into Hyperion. I am currently listening to the 4th chapter, and I'm actually almost done the 4th chapter. Although I like the 4th story a little bit more than the 3rd story, I find that at first I'm not as invested in the story because I just want to go back to the old one and stay in that one. But then slowly, actually not so slowly, very quickly, I get very invested and I get very curious about the story that I'm reading. And then it jumps to the next one. I'm like, no, wait. So it's good that I'm getting so engaged in each story. It just shows how great Dan Simmons is as a writer. I may continue on to the 5th story, because I'm not sure which audiobook I'm going to pick up next. So I think that's where I'm sitting right now. I think I'm just going to jump on to the 5th story, and maybe I'll take a break between the 5th and 6th. I think there's 6 stories. There is 6 stories, so I may take a break in between the 5th and 6th. I do want to complete this by the end of the month, and currently right now, I think it's like the 19th, so I do have a little bit of time to finish it out. I highly recommend this to people. Even if you don't read sci-fi, I think it's still a very interesting book, and I think it's like almost speculative fiction. It's so hard to explain because each story has something different to it. The only thing that it kind of reminds me of is that animated movie back from like the 80s or 70s, and it's called Heavy Metal. Kind of reminds me of that. If you've watched that, I'll put a picture of it here. You've probably seen that picture before. But it does kind of give me that same kind of feel without all the sexual stuff that's in Heavy Metal. Since I decided to put down One Dark Window, as sad as I am to say that, I have decided to pick up a book that just came to my attention recently, and that is Obsidian Awakening. I'm reading this through Kindle. I think it's a Kindle Unlimited book, and it is by Sienna Frost. I actually know nothing about this book, but one of my friends posted a review on our Discord, and the way that she kind of described her enjoyment of it just made me want to pick it up. And if you look on Goodreads, it like at the bottom where it kind of shows all the different genre tropes or triggers or whatever their labels, I guess, it says fantasy, adventure, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm in the mood for that. So I'm deciding to just go on a limb and pick this up and see how I feel. Hopefully it can get me out of this like weird slump that I am in with fantasy right now. Like I mentioned before with my Hyperion update, for audiobooks, I'm not entirely sure what I want to pick up next. I'm waiting on a few holds through my library and for Everend to renew things in March, so I'm still like waiting. There are a few audiobooks I really want to get to, but I just don't have access to them right now. We are doing a buddy read of Ascendant by Michael R. Miller on my Discord channel, but I'm not sure when we're doing that. So maybe that might be in my next audiobook. But again, like I mentioned, I can't do the European fantasy, so I don't know how that's going to work right now. So that's my update for now. If you've made it to the end of the video and you want to leave a comment, but you're not sure what to say, you can leave a tree emoji for Hyperion. As always, if you like this video, please think about liking and subscribing. It really helps my channel grow. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.